Thank you so much for inviting me to speak on the conference. And I'm terribly sorry that I'm not able to join you in person. Maybe as you can hear from my voice, I'm recovering from being cold. My name is Aleksander Buczkowski, and I'm leading PwC Global Center of Excellence in Drone Technologies, that is called Drone Powered Solutions. And over the years, we've been working with a lot of governments and institutions on developing their strategies. And today I wanted to share with you some of the key lessons learned of how advanced drone ecosystems and also perhaps less advanced drone ecosystems develop their strategies in order to grow the sector and what is required to do so. A few words about our team. We are a center of excellence that gathers people, engineers and business consultants that are drone practitioners, and we support PwC clients all around the world in topics related to technology consultancy related to drones, so guiding them through proof of concepts, pilots, until the production deployment of the systems, helping them with drone operations, how to do that at scale, how to process massive amounts of photogrammetry data, and then how to analyze this data in a production environments and how to automate different processes. And finally, we take all of this knowledge into strategic advisory. That typically means that we are analyzing different drone ecosystems. We are creating strategies. We are working on implementing change, so guiding organizations through this strategic change, and also regulatory advisory. So going to or starting any strategy creation for a country or for an organization, we always need to look at what are the best practices, what are these global benchmarks for the maturity of a drone ecosystem. And we've created this methodology that focuses on three main areas: so maturity of supply and demand, maturity of regulations, and maturity of digital aspects related to drone ecosystem, where we investigate specific elements of this ecosystem, such as looking at the readiness of companies on a given market to buy drone services, accessing professional or access to professional drone operators, availability and quality of training and education, approach in a given drone ecosystem to insurance, as well as availability of other drone related services such as marketplaces, also availability of drone hardware. Then regulatory aspects such as not the regulation, the maturity of the regulations itself, but rather how easy it is to comply with these regulations and how drone operators and companies within this environment practically comply with different regulatory aspects. Approach to beyond visual line of flight operations, approach to licensing and examination. And then digital aspects such as the basic stuff, registration and identification, but then also flight authorization, which we measure not in how digitalized it is, but what is really effectiveness of the system. So time required to authorize your flights. airspace maps or digitalization level of airspace maps, and the approach to flight tracking. So we take all of these parameters, and then we assess each of those areas, well, among also others, of course, in order to assess where particular country is at this maturity well, map, and how it compares to other countries, but also where it can be. So you can see here on the map or on this matrix a lot of different flags. So you can see India, you can see Rwanda, you can see Poland, you can see Mexico, Brazil, Spain, Switzerland, and United States. This is just a snapshot, not to put too much of those flags here. We don't yet have here Hungarian flag. We'll work on this together with the coalition to really understand where the Hungarian drone ecosystem is. But studying these dimensions gives us a very good understanding of what are the key challenges, the key also success factors that are well, really building the value of specific drone ecosystems. So this is, of course, not a surprise that United States, this is the biggest and one of the most advanced ecosystems around the world. But I will come back to this slide in a second. But also, you don't need to be the biggest. Switzerland is a very good example of a country that is not the biggest, but is a home to some of the most innovative and the biggest drone companies out there. But coming back to the US, because this is also a very specific ecosystem. I mean, this is also another surprise that you've got a high availability of funding in the United States, and this is well, huge support for startups and different companies to really develop innovative solutions. However, what is interesting when we look at the history of development of commercial drone ecosystem in the US is that you could actually fly commercially drones in the United States only in around 2017, 2018. They were really late. But by the time that it was actually allowed, they already had thousands of jobs created in this ecosystem. And one lesson learned, or maybe a couple of lessons learned that are relevant when we look at the example of US, is the way that they establish regulations in a very transparent process that is long-term process, but a process where a company that gets engaged in developing a specific solution or some innovative technology knows that although today it might not be allowed to do so, in 2 or 3 years, it will be actually allowed. And this transparency in public consultations also of introduction of different regulatory aspects, this is a very good example to follow. Also, when it comes to digitalization process, the roadmap of introduction of different services, piloting different services, and being very transparent about it. This allows companies to innovate in relation to these digitalization plans. When we look at Switzerland, outside of many different characteristics of the country, probably something that we've observed that works in Switzerland better than in any other country, probably in any other country in the world, is, at least when it comes to drone sector, is the cooperation between researchers and academia and the industry, as well as commercialization of research. So when you look at the names that you probably know, such as SenseFly, such as Pix4D, such as Wingtra, the big players in the global drone industry, they actually originate in one of the universities or research institutes, and well, the way they were able to scale quite quickly research into production, this is something definitely extraordinary. Looking at some of the examples of from our region, so Poland, we don't have maybe a very significantly developed ecosystem in every area. When we look at this slide here and you look at the top row, industry readiness, the willingness of our companies, especially in the public sector, to buy drone services is still quite low, unfortunately. Hopefully we will get there. But one thing that is certainly working very well, and we've got a lot of companies producing drones, developing different software solutions to analyze drone data. So what worked well was the push from regulator, from a civil aviation authority called ULC in Poland, and our air navigation services agency called PANSA, push to really develop this ecosystem and really take it forward when it comes to progressive regulations, and when it comes to also digitalization that is on a very high level. You can use just your app in a smartphone to get very quick authorization of your drone operations. BVLOS operations work very well for many years. And a very good example of why it is helping to develop drone ecosystem is actually my own department, because PwC invested in building such competences in Poland in 2015, because we were one of the first countries where drones could be used commercially. I think that already from 2013 or even earlier. So it brings investment, and it brings definitely innovation forward. So out of a lot of different ecosystems and a lot of different countries, we've studied them, and we try to understand what are really the key components of well-functioning drone ecosystem. And we came up with these 5 foundations that really need to be addressed in order to have this balanced ecosystem that is really developing in a fast and sustainable way. Of course, regulations and processes, this is something that needs to be in place in order to enable the ecosystem, the players on the market, drone operators, and the whole industry. Of course, digitalization, this is important because you need to be able to meet demands of modern drone use cases, provide also scale when it comes to capacity, when it comes to authorizing drone operations, and also safely integrate drones within the broader airspace. But this is only one thing. What we cannot forget about are the other 3. So we really need to build awareness, also by having events such as this one, awareness through the society, awareness among also public sector representatives and different governmental bodies. But we should not forget about the society. So we've seen quite a bit of projects that, like pilot projects, that were failing to some extent because public acceptance was not really taken into account. So this is really important to make sure that we actually get this buy-in from the society, that you need to remember that it's not on the level that we all are. We understand what are drones and what is the value of this technology. People don't necessarily do that, and they treat it as a threat to their privacy and to their freedoms and so on. Another important element is, of course, knowledge and education, but not only by providing the availability of drone training and things like this. We also need to think about updating curriculum of universities and research institutes to make sure that young generation that is finishing or graduating from university has the right skills to further grow and develop this ecosystem. And this is really really critical. Without this, there will be no human capacity to really develop it. And then probably the last point regarding entrepreneurs and also demand. So all of the previous 4 points are not really relevant when no one would be buying drone services, or there would be basically no market to do so. And there are many different initiatives that can be done in order to support it. And in order to stimulate this demand. And of course, in this case, or in this point, what is also important is to provide the support to entrepreneurs. So this is important for them to have the right funding possibilities, to have the right scaling, piloting, and testing possibilities. So what you can see here, I will. This is my last slide, and I will not go here into details, but these are. These are the actual lessons learned from all of the strategic projects that we have developed. I would say that this is like a cheat sheet for creating drone strategy for any given country. And as I said, I don't have time today to go through each of these initiatives in details. However, you will see on the conference colleagues from PwC Hungary that will discuss it further with you. And I will be happy to take any questions that you have offline. And so please feel free to reach out to me over email or LinkedIn to further discuss. Thank you so much.